Hello and welcome to the King's Forum podcast show. Back with another episode with Hannah. Hi, Hannah.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, you're always welcome. So we're going to talk about your journey of celibacy. What led you down this path? And, where are we in that stage? When did you start and what led you down that path?
Okay, so on one of our first interviews together, I talked to you about how this year I met a guy that I just fell head over heels in love with. It didn't work out, and I had been struggling with it, but a lot of layers came up with him. Something about him I felt, and I think I'm ready to do the inner work. So layers on layers and layers and layers of my traumas and past relationships and stuff have come up. And I've been a serial monogamist since I was I'm 32 right now. Since I was 17, I've been in serial monogamy. One relationship, not much of a break to the next. And it's always been having because I didn't have self-worth, it's if a guy wants me or see something in me, my self-worth was tied to them, and also the quality of the guy that I can get, how much money does he make, is he a nice guy, do people like him, is he popular, it was I didn't have the self-worth, so it's the codependency made me need somebody. So I've been getting coached from my trauma-informed coach since May. And we'd been talking about the idea of being single. And at the time I was still kind of messing around with this guy. And I think, I don't know what it was, but it was just October 10th. I remember because it was 10/10. That was our first interview together. I think it was that morning. And I decided, I was I don't want to keep having this go back and forth, yes or no, is he or doesn't he, does he or doesn't he like me, yes or no. And it just was my mind kept having to go back and forth, and I was so fucking sick of it. And I was I don't fucking care if it's meant to be or not meant to be, or if he likes me or not likes me. I was this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna fucking stay single for a year. So it came from a place of anger, but also knowing hey, I need to choose Hannah, because I see myself every time I like someone, kind of shifting who I am to be we talked about this, being not super authentic because I want them to like me. So yeah. I put on this mask of who I think that they want. And it's a subconscious manipulation, right? Coming from a place of hurt, not because I'm trying to control them on purpose, because I want to manipulate them and abuse them, but it's coming from a place of I want to be loved. I want to feel loved. So, and I like this person. So in order for me to be loved, I probably have to project this person, or they're not going to like me. They're not going to like my true self. And the reason that fear is there is because I didn't like myself, and I don't even know what my authentic life is. So how can I expect, I just thought to myself, if I get in another relationship where I go dating, I'm just going to prolong this shit. And then when I'm 40 years old, I'm going to be oh, I need to find myself now, or I need to buy a Ferrari. You know what I mean? I don't want to do that. So I was this is the time I'm feeling called right now to I'm going to make a commitment to Hannah and be okay, you're going to stay single until this time. And if the universe has the man for you, your perfect soulmate, you'll never be late. You'll never be too early. The timing is going to be perfect. So right now, stop focusing on what if he was the one? What if that was stop focusing on that, and let's get to Hannah. Let's get you grounded. Let's get you knowing yourself so damn well that if some guy comes along and he tries to sweep you off your feet, and he's not the one for you, you'll know, instead of being oh, maybe he could be the one. Maybe because we talked about this too, my narcissistic ex, he swept me off my feet and I got swept away because I wasn't grounded. I didn't know who I was or what I wanted. Yeah, and that's still, yeah, go ahead.
I get it. No, I'm with you on that. It's it's being in tune with yourself, your full authentic self,
Yeah.
before you know, even think about going into having a relationship with someone, because you don't want to put you know, the areas of you that you feel need work onto them as well. You don't want to project things, your insecurities, maybe your traumas from past relationship or past experiences onto them. You want a clean slate. You want it to be just finding out about that person without the other stuff, without bringing all the luggage with you at the time. You actually just want to find out about them, get to know whether you have a connection with that person, and seeing if that works, rather than bringing all this other stuff with it. And relationships are hard enough anyway between men and women, and you know, maybe same-sex partners or what have you. It's just relationships with people, and being in a committed relationship, and loving and trusting and loyalty in it as well. So they're difficult enough as it is and take work. So I respect what you're doing, because it's saying, like, I'm focusing on me. You know, going from one relationship to the next wasn't serving me. You know, I wasn't in a good place mentally, physically, emotionally. So I'm working on me to get me to that right space. So I now know I'm going to be ready for that space to start dating and actually attracting the right people. Because it's like karma, isn't it? Or an aura you give off is what you attract. So you wonder why does this always keep on happening to me? You know, I have that a lot from female friends. Why do I keep on meeting the same guys all the time? Why do I keep on being in these relationships, Mike? Why do I keep on? And what I always tell them, stop, focus on you, work with that. You didn't even get over your previous exes, but now you're in that, like, how many relationships all the time? And you wonder why you're attracting the same guys. You need to do the inner work. The inner work. It's like why do we say your true beauty is from within?
Yes.
What you have inside shines on the outside. Yes. So you know, that's what you give off. So that pain is what you're giving off. That being hurt and your trauma, your issues is what it's animal instincts, isn't it? They can smell it, they can sense it, they can feel that on you. So speaking about this one friend of mine, for example, she was always going from one relationship to the next, or with guys that would always cheat on her and just use her for sex and nothing else. And it's just what you're giving off. And I always used to have conversations with her about that, and saying it's how you move in a relationship. Yeah, it's how you don't set boundaries. You're an open book. This is me, take me or leave me. You have to set boundaries, because people in general, I was going to say men, but it's deeper than that. It's people in general don't respect people who don't respect themselves.
That's true. And also, I think a little bit of that is also, if you don't heal, like you were saying, she just jumped from relationship to relationship. When we don't heal our traumas, or especially childhood traumas, we think that like we feel normal in those scenarios, like it feels familiar, so we think that that's right, what we want.
Yeah,
because it feels familiar doesn't mean it's what's good for you, but because you never like healed it, you're like, oh, this feels familiar, like something about him feels familiar, like, and then you end up choosing a guy who will cheat on you. So there's that radical responsibility, but also a little bit of grace and compassion, because you're obviously not purposely trying to find someone to cheat, but without doing that inner work, there's your responsibility part, right? Like your part in it is like, you have to do the work, and then like one thing that you were saying in the beginning, that like you don't want to bring all this baggage into the next relationship. Like another reason why I decided to be single is like, I thought to myself this, I was like, okay, what if you got the perfect guy you wanted right now, like the man, He came to you and he was like, Hannah, I'm fucking in love with you. Fucking marry me. Like, I'll be yours, right? I was like, can you handle that? And I was like, hell to the fuck no. Like, I'm not ready right now to give that kind of energy to someone, because I spent 5 years giving all I had to this empty shell of a person. And I need to recoup that energy. And I know that I can't be there for someone. And I'm like, how selfish is that? Then you want someone to be there for you, Hannah, where you can't be there for someone else. Like, that's not really cool, right? So then you'll meet someone who also can't be there for you. Then you're both going to be not there, but there. It'll be a horrible relationship. So then I was like, duh, Hannah, like, okay, obviously, like, so I recognized the self-awareness that you talk about a lot on your show. Is the awareness is there, is like, I realized that, like, I want a good relationship. I want my soulmate. I want to spend the rest of my life with someone that I feel intimately linked to. But right now, am I ready for it? Hell no. And that's okay. Like, I recognize that. And then, like, where the celibacy comes in, like, people could be like, oh, I'm single, but I'm still fucking around, right? It's like, okay, no, I don't believe that people can have sex without emotions. Like, maybe men could. As a woman, and especially as a sensitive woman, like, I'm a very sensitive person, there's an energetic exchange when you have sex, or when you're intimate with someone. There's definitely an energetic exchange. And so to be like, oh, I'm not going to be emotionally vested and I can just have a sneaky link, or a fuck buddy, or a friends with benefits, like, for me, it doesn't work. So for me, it's like, if I'm going to be single, then it's just taken for granted that I'm going to be celibate. You know what I mean? Like not even kissing, not even like holding hands, like none of that, because that's an energetic exchange. And what I'm doing right now, the whole purpose is to ground my energy, right? And if I'm like holding hands, like, even, things like that, it's like, this is like, we usually have like, this is our energy bubble, right? And like, sex is such an intimate thing, and we don't even think about it in this society. We just think like, oh, I'm gonna bang her, I'm gonna bang him, and it's like, yo, that is a really intimate, like, you're giving like your energy to someone and you're receiving that person's energy. Like, do you even know who they are? Do you want that energy in your life? Like, do you want to take on some of that? Like, do you even know this person? Like, they could be bringing you all kinds of energy that you don't want in your life. And then you could be like, they could be draining you of your energy, like the beautiful energy that you have. And then you're wondering like, why do I feel like shit? Like, why, but I will tell you one thing though, we're going to keep it spicy on this one. Celibacy doesn't mean there's no self-love involved. It's all about self-love, right? So we're not skipping on the self-love.
You know what? Since I'm not capping on this episode, it's I was going to say that because naturally you have urges. We're human beings, and I think sometimes we succumb to that. And I think you made some good points about that, the energy exchanges and things like that, and how it's such an intimate act that people try and overlook because of the lust and the urges, and giving into that sexual chemistry, or maybe this person looks a particular way, or whatever it is that you find sexy about them and what have you. You have urges. So how do you stop that? Because you don't completely stop your life. You go out, you're with friends. So naturally, as a human being, you have urges, and lust is always there. These are things we can't control, I'm basically saying. So that's where I was interested to know about those challenges.
Okay, do you want this to be a short one or a long one? There's so many different answers. I'll keep it as short as possible. So the first step is I'm kind of a hermit, so I don't really go out, like I don't go on dates if I don't really have guy friends per se either, because I feel like it's for me, it's hard. The only guy friends I have are like from childhood that I've known for ages. But anytime a new person, a man comes in my life purporting to want to be friends, I'm like a little sus about that, because I'm like, like maybe but why would you want to be my friend? Like, if you find me attractive, like, so there's a little sus there for me, right? So one, I just avoid the situation altogether. So I completely cut that out. Like, there's going to be no temptation. I'm not going to put myself into a situation of temptation. So I'm not going to buy a cake and be like, I'm not going to eat that cake. No, I'm just going to not fucking buy the cake. So no dates, no online dating, no, like, if somebody tries to get a little frisky in the DM, it's like, okay, cut off. Like, we're not doing that, you know? So that's the boundaries I'm setting for myself. Right? Wow. That's my boundaries.
I'm impressed.
Then, yeah. And then, like, as a human being, we do have sexual urges, and this is completely normal. That is like the creative urge, right? Sex is the urge to create, because, like, how do we have babies is from sex. Like, it's a natural thing. So there are several different ways to do this. So one of the things that's pretty popular, I think, in the manifestation community, a lot of people know about this, is called sexual transmutation, which is your sexual urge is basically just energy, right? Like, and it's in like the Tao, they say it's like your primal energy, and there's ways to transmute that into chi, and then to transmute that into spiritual energy, right? So yeah, what happens a lot of time for men too is when you ejaculate, you're expending energy, right? So this Tao method teaches you how to orgasm without expending your energy, and actually revitalize your organs, your everything, because it's a vital, life powerful force. This is one video I've been meaning to make, I haven't made yet, but I love talking about it, because people are so, like, still a little bit cringe and taboo about sex. But it's a natural, normal thing. Like you said, we have urges. So one of the things you can do is transmute that sexual energy into creativity, like into your creativity. So a lot of really highly successful people are very highly sexual people, but they transmute that energy into a project, into something. So when you feel like that urge, you feel inspiration, right? And instead of going and wanking one out, or like going and like banging somebody random, you can go and like transmute that energy into like a project, or into something you're passionate about, right? So that's one way I do it. And then there's some times where I need to have a good self-love moment, and then that's okay too. But there's also ways for women, like when there's this thing called the orgasmic inward draw, where a woman, when you orgasm, you're like, you can revitalize your entire body system. And like, it's like the fountain of youth almost. Like, a lot of times when you orgasm, most women, because we're not trained, we also expend energy out into the universe, right? And once it's gone out of you, it's gone out of you, right? But what you can do instead is like change it into, and I'm still learning this about how to change it into a full body orgasm to revitalize your organs through that orgasm, right? And so it's not just like a quick, I feel horny and I need to like, it's like could be a spiritual and healing experience. You know, they talk about Kama Sutra, you know, tantric sex, like all of that.
I was going to say that tantric.
Yeah.
So it sounded like what he was talking about. I thought, isn't that what tantric sex is about? Yeah.
And so like, I think I'm approaching it from that level. Like, I don't want to ever just have like a one night stand ever again. Not that I've really had one, but like, well, I have one. I
was gonna get the cap. I was gonna get the cap out there. I was like,
yeah. Wait, I did have one night. Yo, he was the worst. Oh boy, yeah, it was bad. Oh god, in the middle of sex, he was like, "Am I the smallest like dick you've ever had?" And I was like, "Bro, like, don't ask that." And I was like, "No, no more. We're not doing this again." Like, even if he was, the fact that like you ask it is like, just be confident with what you have. That's your anatomy. You were born with it. Why be like ashamed of it? You know what I mean? Like,
he's been shamed by someone else. That's why.
I know. And now that I know that, I feel bad for him, but I didn't even want to have, I didn't even want to deal with him in the first place, but that's another story. So like that, I was just like, okay, not talking to you anymore. That was like 7-8 years ago, but that was a one night stand I had. But for me, I want like sex when I meet my soulmate or forever partner to be like a fucking spiritual experience. Like, I'm not trying to get like a one quickie stuff anymore. It's going to be like revitalize and energize each other. And like how yeah, how am I going to learn that without being first celibate and then like learning how my body works, what I like? Because part of being a people pleaser and like always having low self-worth in my relationships would be like, I didn't know how to speak up for what I wanted. I didn't know how to tell them this is how I need to be pleasured. This is how I need to be pleased.
Communication's the key.
I was like, for the longest time, I didn't like when a man would do oral because a lot of women, I think we have this block like, oh, what about the smell? What about this? Like, does he really want to do it? And then like my narcissistic ex, he wouldn't do it. For 5 years, he wouldn't do it. And he would like basically say it's my problem, like that something about me didn't want to do it, right? But then again, he'd always ask me to give him blowjobs, right? And so I was trained like a dog for 5 years to never ask for my needs, And so this year is all about like, I'm figuring out what I like, how I like to be touched by touching myself, learning how to touch myself. Where does it feel good? Like it's all, I know celibacy sounds like no sex, but it's like, no, like I'm learning sex with myself. Like, what do I like, so that when I'm done with the celibacy period and I like open myself up to my soulmate, then I'll be more prepared, because in my current state now, I don't think that it would be a good experience for either of us, because I don't know how to communicate yet. Like, oh, I like this, I like that. And like, I'm not saying the celibacy period is going to make me come out like professional, like I know that, but like I'll be more comfortable with my body. You know what I mean? Like I never felt safe or comfortable in my body during sex ever. And I'm 32 years old. That's a hard thing but that's not the partner's fault per se. I just never felt comfortable and safe in my own body because I didn't know myself. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I was going to say, it's quite exciting, it sounds, to self-exploration, finding out who you really are and discovering your true self. That's quite exciting, a journey.
Yeah.
That's, to be honest, when we look at it, that's all we really want, is to find out who we really are. Yes. I think
that's what everybody wants, is getting back to the authentic self, throwing off the fucking mask that we put on, that society made us put on, that trauma made us put on. We don't want that anymore, because it's all this baggage.
That's why yeah, definitely 100%. And that's why, for me, The Matrix as a movie was thought-provoking, because I looked at it more deeply.
Yes.
When it said about that's, conditioned and all made, and were batteries, and that's how they produce us, and it's not a real world, and that's what's so clever about it, isn't it? For me anyway, that's what I got from it. And because that's what I felt at times. I remember like working many years ago, and when I was a manager in retail and stuff like that, and just every morning, we call it the rat race, of course, and just going with these group of people like sheep into work and rushing for trains, and I used to stop and be like, wait, there must be more to this than what we see and what we're experiencing right now, because we're just like cattle. Would just be the sheep is the system and society. Sorry, the shepherd is the system and society, and and we're just following that, being told we have to work these times, we have to make this amount of money, we have to live in this house, date this type of woman, she needs to look this type of way, we need to wear these type of clothes, we need to buy this type of furniture, our house needs to look like this, our car needs to look like this, it needs to drive. This is all like conditioning. When are you just solely just thinking about, oh, I actually like that and I want to, without the influence of social media or someone showing you what you should like and what is the latest thing? How many times is just out of your own mind that you stop and say, oh yeah, I really want to do that?
Exactly. You know what? I think about The Matrix like every other day. And when you brought up the movie, I was just like, we're resonating so much because I always think about the Matrix a lot. And what you said is like, I hear you. Like, we're like sheep. We're like just led by fear.
Definitely, fear is a big one.
We're taught, you know, and there's this author I really love. He's a Toltec shaman. He's like a South American shaman, and he was an author, and he talks about, it's called the domestication process. So we're all born free, our authentic selves. Like if you look at children, they're just full of love. They're just like, they have no fear. They're just like open. Then we teach them the dream of the planet, which is society, right? And we domesticate them with fear and reward. So punishment and reward. You do what I want you to do as a parent. You teach them, you act how I want you to, you get rewarded. You don't act how I want you to, you get punished. And we, long after we leave home, we self-domesticate and we stay within those limitations, you know? And same thing with society. You're rewarded if you do what society wants you to do, but you're not if you, but the thing is, the people that have the biggest successes or rewards, if you look at them, they don't follow society's rules.
It's true.
Like, what's that guy that owns Virgin? Sir Richard Branson. Like, he does not abide by society's rules. Like, he does not give a fuck. And look at how successful he is. And yet we are still all so scared to fucking live our authentic truths because we don't believe in our own power. Like, we don't know just how fucking powerful we are.
That's an amen to that.
Yeah.
That is so true. We don't. We're not aware of it. And as you said, from being a child all the way up, all these limiting beliefs we have, you know, I believe, I bet we can look, you said about people like Branson and people like that. We could talk about the late Steve Jobs and Bezos of Amazon and, you know, Mr. Microsoft, Gates.
Okay. Yeah.
Gates. I'll be interested to know what their childhood was like. What was their upbringing like? Because that mentality comes from somewhere. Yes, don't get me wrong, they got a gift and to being their own person and seeing things, but the mentality, the way of being and believing in themselves comes from somewhere. And I had this conversation with someone else about childhood and environments and cultures and how different they can be.
Right.
I remember growing up and how different certain cultures were. And I used to be puzzled as a child. I used to be puzzled of, you know, why white cultures, why weren't certain curfews set for them, but I had to come back by 9 o'clock at night. And if I wasn't, you know, I'll be disciplined, probably beaten or something for not coming back at that time. But they would tell me the next day, oh yeah, I was out till 11 o'clock at night. I came home, my mum don't mind. And I tell you what that does. And I mentioned it in an episode I did on generational cycles. And sorry, it wasn't generational cycles. This was about disciplining and childhood trauma. Sorry, it was on childhood trauma. And I mentioned this and how that childhood, that kind of environment you grew up in and what you're used to has an impact on your mentality and how you think. Because just imagine that child, don't get me wrong, I think sometimes it's too lax, the upbringing. Sometimes you need some of that because the life's not like that. There is consequences for certain things you do. You don't just make your own rules. But I think there's a freedom of the mind. You know, I mentioned this before, mental slavery is I believe I'm trapped and I can only do so much. If you're let to do, there you go. If you're allowed to do whatever you wanted, as an adult, I can do whatever I want. Now, what's holding me back? Nothing.
But yourself.
There you go.
Oh, and consequences.
Like,
don't kill people because there's consequences
I
for
was going to
that.
say, so I think there's levels to it, of course, because
Right.
I think that's the extreme where they could just
But
do
like,
it.
I think what you're saying is like, why not go for your dream? Because you're thinking to yourself, I'm not capable of it.
There you go. And that's where the limiting beliefs come from, was my point. The long-winded way I went around it was
no, I feel you 100%.
that was my point, and I think that's the difference, is freedom of mind. But yeah, let's go back to celibacy.
But before we go back to something like that, I'm so passionate about that. That's why I put out my content on everything, because I think so many people, myself included, we like, our ego tells us we're the small little being, that we are only capable of this, and like we can only do this and that much, right? And like you're saying, like domestication and like the being, society telling us all these things, like going back to your authentic self is like shedding all this fucking shit, right? Shedding all the stuff that people have told you. Like somebody told you, oh, you're not very smart, so you should do this. You're not good at that, you should do that. And then somewhere along the line, you agreed with them and said, okay, I believe you, and I'm going to take that as a belief, even though it's probably not true. They just were saying something that they observed with their own traumatized eyes and saying that to you, right? But you agreed. And then now we have the self-identity of, I'm this small human being that's very powerless, I can only do this much. When the truth is like, we're infinite, eternal beings having a human experience. And part of like being your authentic self, I think, is like shaking off all the excess armor and realizing that fear keeps us small, Like, I love what you were saying.
Shedding dead skin.
Yeah, it's shedding, like, it's like you're wearing a coat that doesn't fit you anymore, but you've known it your whole life. So you're like, I this is all I know. Well, let's take it off and see what happens.
It's wearing a fur coat in the summer.
Yeah, exactly. You're mink in the summer, walking about.
Sweating like.
Mm-hmm. Thinking that you are the mink when it's not you, Which.
So, October 10th, you said you started the whole journey. Did I get that right?
Yes. Yeah, and you're gonna hold me accountable to October 10th, 2020.
That's what I was gonna say. What are you hoping to? It's just before my birthday anyway. That's why I remember it.
Oh, when's your birthday?
17th.
17th. Okay.
So next year, the 10th, what are you hoping to accomplish by then? What are your thoughts on where you need to be at? What would you like to be at? Sorry, it doesn't help when we put all this pressure on ourselves, but what would you like to be at, rather than, you need to be at this point? I think it's better and more realistic and attainable if you start saying, I would like this by that time, and be smart about that, because we have our urges. So by then,
I would say, like, now that I'm not wasting as much energy, like mentally and emotionally, not just sexually, on like, oh, is this person for me or not? Like, I'll have more energy to focus on my goals of, right now my goal is to help men in some way, fashion, or form. I think there are a lot of men out there who feel stuck, who feel unheard, unseen, relegated to the side. I know there's like a huge wave of feminist movement coming in, which I applaud and welcome, but I know sometimes it can be kind of in an abrasive way that like disregards men and like disregards men's feelings, like altogether. Yeah, and I feel like that we need a little balance that out, because there are a lot of men who are feminists and welcome that, but are being relegated to the side, like, oh, your feelings don't matter, you're a man, like you don't matter. Like, that is what I want to help balance that somehow. And that's by next year, hopefully I'll have started making a little impact somehow in that arena of, my passion is to see men and like work with men. I don't like to say the word help men, but like work with men on
what about support
men. That's what I want to do. I'm here to support men and women that resonate with me. But I think my approach is more, I'm very direct and very blunt, which is, I think a lot of men, they prefer that approach versus women are more like, we tread on softer waters. We don't want to hurt people's feelings. But with me, like, I'll just give it to you straight. Like, you don't get any bullshit with me, no cap, right? And so like that's my approach. And some women might resonate with that, but I think it resonates more with men. And so that's my way of supporting men. Like, I want to tell it how it is, tell it to them straight, and also show men like, you are so fucking powerful, you know, like, just all humans. I just like, that's what I want to be doing next year this time. Like, my energy and focus, all the not sex I'm having is going to be like poured into like that is my like life's purpose, I think, is to support men. There, I think, are a lot of men who don't know how to speak up for their needs and their wants.
Definitely.
And that is crippling our society as a whole, because men not knowing how to speak up for their needs and wants affects how they are as fathers, husbands, which affects all of society.
But it's because that line of communication isn't taught to us, and we've not had role models around us to show us the way. You know, just to protect, just to look after, just to help, just to, you know, go and put food on the table. Look, and that's our mentality all the time. So that line of communication about our needs and our wants, you know, this is what's expected. We just expect you to fit this role. So it's now saying, actually, no, there's more to us.
Yes.
You know, we have emotions, we feel, we hurt, we're in pain.
Yes.
We can't show our emotions. We are hurting. We're internalizing. That's why the suicide rate is so much higher for men.
Yeah, that's disturbing, that more men commit suicide than women. And women are supposed to be more emotional beings, right? That is very, very sad.
It's very sad. And for a horrible truth, but that's the way it is. So that's why I'm an advocate for mental health, for men to talk and women to talk as well. But let's come out, and I'm going to try and grow it. That's an intention of mine, is to try and build that and build my tribe of guys who can come on and talk about. I'm working on it. It's been tough because a lot of guys don't want to open up. That's why you see so many more interviews with women. I've asked so many guys over this year, and it's like, oh, I don't want to go on. And the thing is, as well, to show their face is a thing. So that's why I want to have it also on Spotify as well, and look at that, because a lot of guys don't want to be seen. So you know, that vulnerability and sharing, and you know, I have so many guys who turn me down when I ask them to come on and have these discussions. Very few I can say are up for it, you know. So it's, yeah, wow. I get a lot of that. But I remember when I first did them, people used to say, why don't you have any guys? I'm like, I ask, no one wants to do them. No one wants to do them with me.
On Instagram, you know, I follow some mental men, like there's one called Men Supporting Men that I follow. I follow a lot of men's mental health, and there are men out there who are bringing awareness to this, about like teaching men how to support too. I think that's another thing men are not taught. Like you said, the line of communication, men are not really taught how, even me as a woman, we're not taught how to hold a safe space for somebody who's having an emotional experience. Our immediate response, I'm kind of like a man and I want to fix, right? I'm like, oh, what can I do? How can I make you stop crying? Like, oh God, you know, like freaking out, right? And that's what most men, if you cry, they're like, oh my God, don't cry. Like, what? But it's like, once we are taught how to hold a safe space for people, like everything will just flow better. And I think it starts with men supporting men, because like you said, men don't really want to be vulnerable. And I think sometimes it's harder in front of women too, but then especially in front of another man, like to be
definitely. That's
vulnerable. It's like, I'm not going to show you my weakness. Like, fuck that, you know, like,
yeah, ego. But yeah,
the traumatized part. And like, I could talk about this all day. I get so fired up about it. This is what I love to do. It's my passion and I love what you do too, bringing awareness to men's mental health, because
Appreciate
It's
that.
definitely something that the world needs right now, I think.
Cool. Again, thank you very much. We've come to the end of this episode, and yeah, it was another enjoyable episode. People, please like, share, and subscribe the video. I'll put all your contact details in the description if people want to follow, and all the great stuff you do on Instagram, and did you say Facebook as well?
TikTok, yeah.
TikTok. That's cool.
Same thing, I guess, yeah. Or it's, I guess Instagram is Meta now, right? So thank you for having me on your show. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
No problem. Anytime. Guys, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Thank you. See you later.